On 77 WABC, it's War Room Pandemic, our New York City special. I want to thank the team at 77 WABC for making this possible. You're live from the War Room. If you want to join the show, hashtag War Room Pandemic. Jack Maxey, who runs the engine room with Greg Mans of the War Room every day, is in studio with me, and Jason Miller, the former communications director for the Trump transition and the Trump campaign. There's a lot to get to today, gentlemen. Episode 61, if you get it on podcast later. Really want to thank the team at 77 ABC. Also, AmericansVoice.News, our co-production partner, and the John Fredericks Radio Network. Okay, a lot to get to. Another historic day. There's an apocryphal saying out there. I don't know if it's Lenin or Marx. Has been attributed a lot of that there are decades where nothing happens, and then there's weeks where decades happen. We are in that time in history. This is living history. There are things happening today that they will talk about 100 years from now. And I think people realize they're going to be weighed and measured by how they respond. So I want to start with so much to go through with Governor Cuomo, with Mayor de Blasio, with Michael Bloomberg, with the President of the United States, with his wife, the First Lady. But I want to start with a very special New Yorker, Dr. Fauci.
Country that are being stressed much, much more than the country as a whole. Clearly, one of them was Washington. Another one was California. Governor Newsom made some very important, difficult decisions. Today, Governor Cuomo did the same thing. And I want to say I strongly support what he's doing. And one thing, as a New Yorker myself, for those of you who haven't figured out from my accent that I'm from New York, as a New Yorker, I know what New Yorkers can do. We're tough. I was in New York City on September 11th, 2001, and I know what the New Yorkers can do. So please cooperate with your governor, cooperate with your mayor. It's very important. Thank you.
9/11 and in the financial crisis of 2008. New York got through both of these. New Yorkers are tough. Look, this is the most important city, not just in the United States of America. New York City is the most important city in the world, because of the center anchor of the world capital markets, world media, business, culture. This is a world city. It is the leading city in the United States. It's the most important city of the world, and it's so urgent and important how it gets through this crisis and what comes out on the other side and how it's rebuilt, because it's all going to be on the shoulders of the deplorables around the country, obviously, but New York will always take the lead. That's why we're so honored with the team at 77 WABC to be able 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, to share with you our thoughts. Okay, let's go to, I want to play Governor. We're going to get to the First Lady and others later, but let's go to Governor Cuomo and that power statement he had.
And just so we're all clear, this is a statewide order. It's not what your county executive is doing. It's not what your mayor is doing. It's not what anyone else but me is doing. And I accept full responsibility. If someone is unhappy, somebody wants to blame someone or complain about someone, blame me. There is no one else who is responsible for this decision.
Okay, here's what I want to do. Can we reboot that? Because I want to play that in its entirety. This is, and look, I've never really followed Cuomo that much. I'll be honest with you. Now, I've lived in and out of New York City. Right before I stepped into the Trump campaign, I was living in New York City, right across from Bryant Park. I love New York City ever since I got out of the Navy and Harvard, since '84. I've lived in New York City, when I wasn't living in China or in California. And I love this city. And this guy is standing up. This is leadership. Let's play that clip again.
It's real leadership. And I'm going to start it just a tad bit earlier,
Yeah.
a little bit full flavor. And Steve, just tell me when you want to cut off here.
Spoken to my colleagues around the state, the elected officials. I've spoken to business leaders. There is a divergence of opinion. There's a spectrum of opinion. Some people say that we don't need to do this. It's going to hurt the economy. I understand that. Some people want to make it clear that they are disassociated from these actions. I understand that. And just so we're all clear, this is a statewide order. It's not what your county executive is doing. It's not what your mayor is doing. It's not what anyone else but me is doing. And I accept full responsibility. If someone is unhappy, somebody wants to blame someone or complain about someone, blame me. There is no one else who is responsible for this decision.
This the problem you get into complex systems. We had Joe Norman on from, I think, Taib's New England Institute of Complex Systems in one of the very first episodes of War Room Pandemic. He talked about complex systems. You have to take draconian action. And I think with the governor, remember, we've gone 25, 50, 75, now 100. And Jack's got some of the what's not shut down. So it doesn't seem like everything. But these are taking harder and harder actions. I also think he's getting out of incrementalism, right? And I think you're going to start seeing, I believe you're going to start seeing that in Washington. Now you have California, you have Illinois, you have Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. We're just waiting for Florida. You have the five, you also have the state of Washington, but you have the five of the six biggest states, most powerful states in the union have now gone to some version of this, either shelter in place or stay at home or only workforce. He was very specific later on. This is not shelter in place, right? This is about the workforce, and maybe that's the next thing he gets to.
And you're sort of seeing that in California as well. I think people are a little bit confused when they hear single term shelter in place, and the governor tried to explain that a little bit earlier concerning how it really is just more like self-separation, everybody. And for example, he came out today afterwards by way of clarification. So pharmacies, healthcare, grocers, convenience stores, banks, hardware stores, child care providers, auto repair, plumbers, other skilled contractors, and even construction companies will be allowed to stay open. I think what the governor is really trying to make clear to people is everybody needs to be 6 feet apart. Everybody has to understand that we're all in this together. And I think he's just trying to highlight this. I don't think it means that New York is going into full lockdown. There's no, your services and goods and services will still be available to you. It's just to focus everybody's attention on kind of reducing the size of this curve for the New York City healthcare professionals.
I want to go back to you guys because we debated earlier. The Wall Street Journal today, the editorial page, and I think a little bit the governor particularly, I think we got the clip, but maybe we don't need to play it right now, where he talked about the difference in shelter in place and what he's doing now. This is not shelter in place. The Wall Street Journal had de Blasio scares, Cuomo sues. Now, and I realize, and I've been a big supporter of what Governor Cuomo is doing because I think he's taking decisive action. And more importantly, I think he's signaling, hey, I'm not a dictator. I'm not authoritarian. I'm a governor. I'm taking input, et cetera. But when a decision's made, the buck stops with me. And if you got a complaint, you come to me, right? I think that's very powerful, particularly in this kind of fog of war situation. I do disagree with what the Wall Street Journal basically said, because Mayor de Blasio was the first to say about shelter in place. I thought with the Mayor de Blasio, and I think to date what he's done is very powerful. I thought de Blasio was not scaring people. He was telling people what's coming. And as we know from other situations, this may be the measure that you have to go to. Now, the Wall Street Journal lit him up and compared and contrasted him to Mayor Cuomo. So I'd like to have your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean, look, as far as where Mayor de Blasio is going, I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it's just a matter of time until you're essentially at a only leave your house if you absolutely have to. A little bit different. I mean, with Governor Cuomo, it's going to 100% closure on businesses, already shut down the bars and restaurants, unless you're going out, like Jack said, to pharmacies or to grocery stores, that kind of thing. We're not that far off from New York being to a don't leave your house unless this is absolutely an emergency. I mean, we're going to get there. It is just a matter of if they decide that in the next 24, 48 hours or if it's not until next week. And I think Mayor de Blasio is right to go and say that. I mean, the approach and the tone, I think the way that Governor Cuomo did the ramp up, I think was right. So it wasn't complete shock to the system. But let's be real. This is where we're going, not just in New York City, not just in New York State, but around the country.
Jack, do you have the numbers on New York? I want to go to the numbers on New York because you look at the curve. The curve is like Italy. I think that, look, we're going to have to jump for a commercial break here in a second.
As of today, there are 5,151 positive cases of COVID-19 in the city. Statewide, there are 7,000 cases. So far, Staten Island seems to be the one with the lowest number of cases, 242. Vish Burra is over there giving a thumbs up.
A good Staten Island kid. It's the island that beat the virus. But I want to. Here's the thing: it's the growth rates though that are scary. It's the growth rate of the infected, the growth rate of the people dying. Here's still the issue for New York City, and this is one of the things that the governor tried to get ahead of, and the mayor has already said he's having conversations. The Army Corps of Engineers, the USNS Comfort, is not going to be up here for a while. And remember, the comfort is looked at as surge capacity for the hospitals. They're not going to take the corona. Folks say they don't want the ship to get infected. What they're going to do is try to take other people that are sick and put them in the 1,000 beds and free up more capacity in the beds, more capacity in the IC units.
And things like emergency surgeries, there's still going to be car accidents. There's still going to be people getting heart attacks and things like that. So it's really great that the U.S. Navy can send that team up there to give the city backup.
Well, it's depending on when it gets. Okay, tell you what, we're going to take a break so WABC, 77 WABC can sell some ads because we are a capitalist organization. Okay, we're going to take a short break. This is War Room Pandemic, our New York City special that we do every afternoon, special report we do every afternoon. Jason Miller, Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon, the entire team at the War Room. We're going to return in just a second. To be part of the show, go to hashtag War Room Pandemic. Tag War Room Pandemic. We're going to hear your thoughts, your observations, and any news you have, particularly around the tri-state area. Be back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On 77 WABC in New York City, this is War Room Pandemic, our New York City special report where we talk about the city, its place in the globe. We talk about the pandemic, the economic crisis, and the financial crisis all together. We break it down for you and talk specifically about the tri-state area. Very honored to be doing the show every day from the War Room. Let's turn. We've got. By the way, hashtag War Room Pandemic, and we love the good, the bad, and sometimes the more bad. Or the badder. And I want to get back to Cuomo and Bloomberg in a second. But let's talk about some of the feedback we have from the audience.
Jennifer Small has the comment here. What's to keep New York City from turning into Wuhan? Manhattanites pack like sardines.
It's a big issue. I mean, this is what in the next week, and this is why we're glad we're going to be doing the show. You know, our job here, and we started this back in January, first people on this because of our understanding of China and particularly Wuhan and the CCP, is that we pride ourselves in not panicking people, to give you full information and full coverage so that you can go to other sources, talk to the best experts in the world, and understand that the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. But we also don't believe in ill-informed complacency. And you've got to look at New York City's got some issues, right? I mean, Wuhan is a city of 14 million people. They were packed in. That it spread through there. That's why I think you have Mayor de Blasio and you have Governor Cuomo. And I realized I'm the most partisan person on earth. Okay, I've been fighting this fight a long time, right? In moments like this, in moments of crisis, when you're seeing leaders step up and you're seeing leaders do things, to me, you've got to back them. That's what this country's about, right? This is, people that disagreed with FDR, people that disagreed with Ronald Reagan, people that disagreed with Abraham Lincoln. You've got to come together, and that's how you pull together. And I realize I'm getting lit up every day, but hey, this is the way it is. I call it like I see it, and I think we're seeing real leadership here.
Want to do one more for someone using hashtag War Room Pandemic from Proud New York Vet. War Room Pandemic, stop with the love fest over the fascist Cuomo. I'm in Suffolk County. People are furious and fit to be tied.
Okay, good. We want to, but we'll hopefully do a call-in one time. Take some callers. We want to take some callers out in Suffolk County. Love the folks out there. Understand that everybody doesn't agree. Not sure I would call him a fascist. I think the governor is doing what the governor is doing. Actually, I'm more of even a de Blasio guy. I think what the mayor said the other day needed to be said. I think the Wall Street Journal, and I have tremendous respect for Paul Gigot that runs the editorial page, and for Jim Taranto who runs the op-ed page. Those are two of the most skilled guys around, although Gigot used to blow me up for Bannonism all the time, right? I realize he's not a populist or nationalist, but they're great guys and very smart. I do disagree with this op-ed today. I actually think de Blasio...
Editorial.
Editorial. Actually, the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, as the president will tell you, is the front page. but no, let's go to about more stuff we want.
Mini Mike Bloomberg. I want to go into Mini Bloomberg. So Politico just I got to give him a little bit of a heckle. It's still fun to beat up on Mini Mike. I mean, literally, it's like I spent $500 million to run for president, and all I got was this damn T-shirt. But there's an article.
Hold it. He'll always have American Samoa.
Yes.
Okay.
How much would it cost to actually buy American Samoa? Like to buy the island itself?
I don't know. It was, but he didn't. He got
Would that have been smarter to just actually buy the island?
He got to refinance it, right?
Okay, right. Okay, so you could force everyone to have a terminal. All right, so let's go to Politico. Wrote a story a little bit ago. Bloomberg lays off hundreds as coronavirus bears down. Christopher Catalogo, Holly Otterbein. As you might remember, Bloomberg jumped in this late, and they basically went around to get good talent.
The best talent.
The best talent. They went to top shelf people, although it turned out that Sheeky and Wolfson, some of those guys probably gave
maybe
some bad
not so
advice,
much.
but
Maybe not so much.
But they had a lot of people who were some good nuts and bolts operatives, but they had all these massive staffs out in these states, and they got them to leave real jobs. I mean,
and guaranteed them jobs until December. That was put out. Guaranteed jobs to December.
Yes, guaranteed. And so what they would do is if they lost, then they would go and essentially work for his super PAC, what they would turn it into. But they were all going to have jobs. They're going to keep this. Well, Bloomberg's basically done I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just going to go and roll this into the DNC. But everybody got laid off. So all these people who were promised to have jobs all the way through, they've completely hosed them. The staffers are pissed. So here's a quote from Amal Jathwani, a former aide. He tweeted out, "I guess it's cheaper to give the DNC $18 million than keep promises because Mike Bloomberg just fired his whole campaign staff, including those of us promised jobs through November on his IE, independent expenditure." Then he continues, "Disappointed I don't have a job. Not surprised that a billionaire is cheating scum."
Wow. Isn't there some also analysis or out on Twitter today that maybe the Bloomberg offices that the campaign was in might have the virus?
Yeah, so adding injury to insult, I guess you'd say here. Another story from Politico with a headline, "Laid off Bloomberg staffers exposed to coronavirus." The notice came in a late-night mundane email on Thursday to workers in the Manhattan headquarters hours before workers were let go. So it says in here that literally they were told that someone who had coronavirus had been...
That's why he dumped him. He didn't want the liability. It's obvious. He dumped him. As soon as he found out the building had corona or the floors had corona, he got rid of him.
Yeah, and so it said that impacting the entire 5th and 8th floors, the person was last in the office on Monday, March 16th. Wasn't that just on Monday?
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So when did he lose? He lost a while ago.
Yeah.
So they still so first of all, I mean, Bloomberg, this is just a pretty shoddy, I can say shoddy, ODDY at the end, just to be clear so we don't, WABC doesn't get picked up with a fine. Right. But this is, look, you're someone who's worth, even if he took a massive hit in the stock market.
$70 billion, or maybe now is worth $50 billion.
Maybe he's worth $50 billion. But here's the thing. People took a promise with you. People said they were going to give up their lives, give up their careers, give up what they were doing because they believed in what you were trying to do. Now, I disagree with them, obviously, philosophically, ideologically. But when you make a promise like that and you are so rich that it stinks, that's a really crappy thing to go and do. And then these people are getting exposed to coronavirus, and there's no health care when you're unemployed like that.
Let's flip to your AP reporter. Was it Jonathan Lemire?
Yeah, Jonathan Lemire has a story out today.
But I want to hear the tee-up. Give me the tee-up first.
Yeah, let me go and give you the tee-up here real quick. This is me from on Wednesday talking about who the real leader...
This is Sean Spicer's show.
Yep, on Newsmax. This is with the real leader of the Democratic Party, Andrew Cuomo. Also knowing, too, I think there is a genuine lack of enthusiasm for Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. I mean, to be very clear right now, the leader of the Democratic Party isn't Nancy Pelosi. It's not Chuck Schumer. It's Governor Andrew Cuomo. And there are a lot of Democrats out there who are looking and seeing Andrew Cuomo on the stage every day and saying, you know what, wouldn't it be nice if we had this guy who was running for president on the Democratic side? But the fact of So the fact of the matter is they're stuck with Joe Biden, and Jonathan Lemire has a story out today. Cuomo emerges as Democratic counter to Trump virus response. 2 days after I said it, but that's fine.
He gave you, obviously, a hat tip in the article, right?
No, I've actually read the article twice, and it doesn't...
hopefully we've notified that your lawyer that you want a royalty. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to get back. We got the First Lady who's done an incredible support for people out there in a public service address. We're going to talk about this. 77 WABC War Room. We'll be back in a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
77 WABC. This is War Room Pandemic, the New York City special report. You're live from the War Room. We got Jack Maxey, Jason Miller. Jack, I want to go to the tweet of Governor Cuomo that he put out a little while ago.
Governor Cuomo, and this shows you how real the problem is with the PPEs. Governor Cuomo on his Twitter feed put out, New York has a critical need for PPEs, including gloves, gowns, and masks. We need companies to be creative to supply the crucial gear our healthcare workers need. New York will pay a premium and offer funding. Now, just so you all know, we did forward this to our man Mike Bowen down there at Prestige Ameritech, who's patriotically trying to make up the supply for America. And he said he did put a call in, Governor, and the voicemail is full. So America's out there trying to get you your supplies.
We will work at the governor's office to make sure there's a contact. What Mike Bowen and these guys, he had them on the show first time. They took an old Kimberly-Clark plant that they used to run down in north of Dallas, I think it is, or west of Dallas, and they've got it up running lines. They make N95 masks, surgical masks, fabulous people. And we're going to make sure we connect them with the state of New York to try to get as many masks up there as possible. We'll try to do other. Navarro's got the whole list, and Rosemary Gibson of all the personal protective equipment people we know. So we're going to go full bore here, try to connect them to the government.
Also, Steve, Mike asked me to put out a little shout out for his partner there. His name is Dan Reese. These two guys are great American gentlemen. And I can tell you they have their hearts in this as well as their own capital.
Yeah, we don't have time to do it today on the show. We'll try to do it on the weekend show. We got a show tomorrow morning from 10 to noon on some of the other networks. And we'll get it back up to the WABC guys, 77 WABC. The emails that Bowen and his partner have gotten from other companies around the country to assist, to help, et cetera, would make you proud to be an American. I mean, people are riding to the sound of the guns here, right? Entrepreneurs. People understand. I understand. People out there are fearful. People are out there saying, "I don't really know what's going on. This has never happened in America before." Remember, there's many, many, many of your fellow citizens throughout the nation that are all working and trying to. This look. What Cuomo identified is the concept of hospital exhaustion, which we talked on very early on. That is ICU units, bed capacity, the thing about doctors and nurses and teams, getting infected. Still, the highest casualty rates throughout the world have still been. Whether it's in Wuhan, Italy, wherever, is the doctor and nurses team. That's where he called people back from retirement. Even people who were not maybe fully qualified as nurses to give them a field promotion, because they understand what's going to happen here, right? They understand what this math is, and they understand there's going to be gating events. And right now, he's going all out everywhere to try to get this equipment there. And so we're going to try to help to the degree that we have relationships and contacts. We're going to try to pitch in and put our shoulder to the wheel and make sure that people contact the governor's office and try to get this done. I want to go to let's go to Melania. I think the First Lady, I want to play this in its entirety because I think it's very powerful. So she's another New Yorker, Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States. Let's play it.
Yeah, and just to put it in context, yesterday we talked about the PSAs that were coming out. We talked about that Rick Wilson person. But
she was viciously, even the concept of this, she got viciously attacked by a never-Trumper. Right. And we said at the time it's just not appropriate. But now that you hear this, it's even less appropriate. Let's play it.
Today, I want to speak with you about coronavirus and what it means for you and your family. While changes need to be made now, this is not how we will live forever. Our children will return to school. People will return to work. We will gather at the places of worship, concerts, and sporting events again. I urge you to stay connected to family and loved ones through the video chats, phone calls, social media, and other safe technologies. Please be sure to follow CDC guidelines, which can be found at coronavirus.gov or cdc.gov, along with other information and resources. Stay safe. And remember, while many of us are apart, we are all in this together.
That was the First Lady, Melania Trump. Very powerful, right? To the point, hit every action item you need to hit.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to Ori Renat and the rest of the White House digital team. These are fantastic PSAs, and they actually have about 25 or so different ones, everything from First Lady Melania Trump to Ambassador Debbie Birx to the Surgeon General Jerome Adams and a whole host of things, everything from here's how to wash your hands properly to here's why it's important that bars and restaurants are closed. So they've really gone all out, and they've flooded the zone with, like I said, 25 or 30 of these.
I don't want to get on top of, start busting this guy's chopper, even mention his name, but we got to go back to the Rick Wilson of it all, right? How does he attack this?
So the First Lady tweeted out that she was going to be in in these PSAs, and he tweeted out and wrote, "Be infected." Of course, just a disgusting.
That's a take on her Be Best program.
Right. And again, this is someone who, Rick Wilson, is not a paid contributor for CNN and MSNBC, but he's almost ubiquitous. He's on there almost every single night. He's a grifter who's written 2 anti-Trump books and making money off of it. He's part of this whole Lincoln Project with George Conway and the Principal's Last group.
It's
and,
Crystal too, right? Bill?
Crystal has one too. His is
a different one. Okay,
his is slightly different,
yeah.
but it's all look. All these guys have some little way to dip their fingers in it and try to make money off of being grifters in this whole thing. But it's just disgusting that someone who CNN and MSNBC continually has on their airways would be out there wishing that our First Lady of the United States get the coronavirus. I mean, that's just disgusting.
Outrageous. Okay, let's turn now to President Trump. And look, he's done the press conference every day. We're talking later about the polls. Clearly, there's some movement in the polls that people think he's more in charge of this or acting more. But today's press conference, I think this is what, and I want you to tell me what the best stuff to pull. But here's what I thought was interesting. Halfway through the press conference, CNBC cut away to the conference. And the reason was the market was dropping. I think it started up 300 or 400, 500 points, and it was dropping. It was down a couple of hundred because he had gone from the power announcements, things like Cuomo and others, he had gone from his power announcements to really, I don't know, getting in fights or kind of this bickering back and forth with reporters. And the thing was over 2 hours long. I mean, if you think about it, if you triage this crisis as a pandemic that you got to deal with that, on top of it's triggered an economic crisis, both short-term with the really complete collapse of aggregate demand, but also longer-term about the supply chain where we make all the PPEs, where we make all the drugs, and deeper, the supply chain in China. On top of that, we've now triggered a massive financial crisis. The financial crisis, both a liquidity crisis, now a solvency crisis. These three things converging to the most complex problem the United States, I think, has ever had to unwind quickly in real time. And the president, I think for 2 hours, if you're coming in and making power announcements like a national emergency, et cetera, good things happen. If you're in there and it's ill-defined what you're talking about and it just goes on, and then you start getting into fights with reporters, I'm not sure that takes us to the next level.
So it's a little bit of a split-screen presidency this week where we've seen the stock market have its worst weekend. You and Jack probably have the exact –
Since 1929.
Since 1929. So it's literally the worst week overall. But President Trump's numbers, his handling of the coronavirus crisis, have flipped. So whereas last week he was upside down with a 41% approval and over 50% negative, new ABC News Ipsos polling has him at a 55% favorability for handling the crisis with a 43% disapprove. And that's backed up with a couple of others. I mean, Emerson polling has his fave-unfave at 49-41. And then Harris is out. And
this is the Harvard poll.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the Harvard Harris has his overall favorability at 53 and his handling of the coronavirus crisis at 56.
But that's because he's in front of it now, and you can tell he's explaining it, he's messaging it. My issue is that you have look in New York City over the next week or 2 weeks, you're going to have some big decisions to make. Okay, you can see by the acceleration of this, of the exponential function, like in Italy, okay, like in Wuhan. You also have this in the United States, but even in the United States, what Cuomo doesn't really have to deal with directly is the financial crisis laid on top of this. So now you have this bill up on Capitol Hill of $1 trillion. It's just a Band-Aid, right? We know that. It's not enough. It's not big. It's not of scale. And you are in front of this, but decisions are either not being made or whatever that, as time goes on, it's people are going to say, where are the decisions and where is that wrestling? And my point right now, there's a law of diminishing returns to being up there all the time. Right, you do it. You come in from power statements, power moves. You explain it to the people. You let them know. You get past the fear. You get past the panic, and you move. But when you stay up there for 2 hours, right, less is more.
Yeah, and look, Morning Money Ben over at Politico talks about how the $1 trillion stimulus is only a down payment. It's going to need much bigger than that. And Hans Nichols was on Morning Joe this morning and said that this is again kind of the one number. Republicans say another. What happens in Washington, rather than find the middle ground, they usually combine the two of them. He said he thinks this thing will go over $2 trillion by the time it's done. We've seen Secretary Mnuchin.
This is just the economic part. This has nothing to do with the Fed. It has nothing to do with the balance sheet, the financial crisis. This is just the complete evisceration of aggregate demand.
Right. And Senator McConnell, Leader McConnell in the Senate is going to start moving this thing on Friday. They want to have it done and voted on Monday, which they have to. Otherwise, the markets are going to react pretty negatively. But look, it's even Secretary Mnuchin came out today and said he thought the Republicans' initial offering was too small. At $1 trillion. And I mean, let me ask you.
Well, when
this.
he says too small, this should have been led by the White House. It shouldn't be Mnuchin commenting on McConnell's proposal. You had Schumer try to come in and bigfoot it. The White House has to come up with this. It has to be big. But by the way, the president did announce, look, we essentially closed the southern border except for trade. I mean, there were some powerful announcements in there. How did, for our audience, because you're the specialist of this, what was this Peter Alexander thing? I still don't understand it. The Peter Alexander did kind of toss him a softball question. Is there something behind the scenes we're not seeing? Because look, the president really, and he said this, he's actually likes reporters. Right? It's not that he's not a press-shy guy. He's a McLuhan-esque figure. He understands mass communications. He's probably the best communicator we've had, and I even include Reagan in that because even though Reagan was a little Hollywood, from Trump, you're getting it from the heart, and he has the ability to connect in this visceral connection with working-class and middle-class people, and to cut away from the cant of the political nomenclature and to talk like a real human being. It was kind of unusual, I thought, for him, and I realize this pressure and you're working 24 hours a day, but for him to really get into it with Peter Alexander, which didn't seem like – the question seemed like a legit question. It kind of seemed like a coach pitch, right?
Yes and no. So here's the thing with these press conferences. You get look, I could sit there and watch a 2-hour press conference, Steve, and I would jot down my notes on what the big moments were. You could do it, Jack could do it, Vish could do it, Greg could do it, we all could do it, and we're all going to come away with different things. The reason is because the way that we watch these things, you start getting lulled to sleep because there are all these questions. It's almost impossible, if you especially have ADD, trying to watch these things, pay attention. So here's what everyone's missing out, what they're selectively editing. Okay. So Peter Alexander, who I got to say on Peter, look, he's left of center. He gets a little bit snarky. He does a lot of the giving the answer in his question.
NBC's, he's one of the White House, not the lead reporter, he's one of the White House correspondents.
Yeah, he's frequently a Today weekend anchor. Good guy. As far as like a person, he's a good guy. Definitely left of center. But here was what set off President Trump today. So he started off the question with, is it possible that your impulse to put a positive spin on things may be giving Americans a false sense of hope? So he goes into that's some kind of – that's a pretty leading question because then –
It's a little snarky.
It's a little snarky. Then he goes to, what do you say to millions of Americans who are scared? And then President Trump replied, I say that you're a terrible reporter. But here's the thing. Everyone who's cutting the clip is just doing, what do you say to millions of Americans who are scared?
Yes.
And then I say that you're a terrible reporter.
Stopping the preamble.
Right. But is it possible that your impulse to put a positive spin on things may be giving Americans a false sense of hope? That was the full question, so people understand this. Look, everyone on the right tonight, I can tell you, and all the, everyone on Fox News will be like, here's the full clip. Everyone on the left will be saying, Trump's a terrible person for going and doing this. Look, President Trump likes to go and call out journalism that he views as misleading. I mean, that's just that is nobody in this entire country right now should be surprised.
In the reality of the messaging war you're in, the messaging environment you're in, when you had all the stuff you've done on southern border and all the quality power stuff you had, it's not what CNN and MSNBC and these people are just going to bear. That's all they're going to talk about.
Right.
I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying we're trying to do a reality check here. As soon as you see that, you and I went to each other, that's what they're going to be all over.
Let's talk about the massive things that were announced. We are closing the southern border with Mexico. We are pushing tax day from April 15th to July 15th. We are saying no interest is due on student loans. And these are on
more issues with the FDA of cutting away the administrative block to get to both a vaccine and to a therapeutic.
Right. We have issued a level 4 warning for Americans abroad, saying, "Hey, Americans, if you can get home, you need to get home." By the way, they went and got the Americans out of Morocco who were stuck there. I mean, these on their own would be massive game changers on any day. Steve, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, there's a little breaking news. We've been talking about this idea that we're going to shut down the whole country. And as I said earlier today, I thought that would be a bad idea. I think we stick to the hot spots, try to control what we can, surge where we can. The acting secretary of the DHS, Chad Wolf, just texted out, hearing a lot about texts from friends at DHS or, quote, friends with connections at DHS that say DHS is planning a national lockdown. All caps. This is not true. Do not believe the disinformation campaigns. Please do not pass it along. Use trusted local and federal government sources and hashtag War Room Pandemic.
Okay, we're gonna make sure you get to hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want all your comments. You got something else you want to slide in here?
Just popped Ebony Bowden over at New York Post. Mini Mike Bloomberg pumped nearly $1 billion into his failed presidential. $935 million. That's what he wasted.
$1 billion, and he stiffed his guys at the end. Okay, short commercial break. We'll be back on 77 WABC with War Room Pandemic in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
77 WABC. This is War Room Pandemic, the New York City Special Report. Jack, I want to go to you, the head of the National Guard. What did he just tell us?
The head of the National Guard had a really interesting comment because, as you know, these guys are going to be under a lot of pressure, and 20,000 have been called up around the country. So the National Guard General Joseph L. Lengyel, who's head of the overall National Guard, he quotes, "When there's a hurricane, you can see it on a map. You have a sense of how hard the storm will hit and how long the storm will last. It's like today we have 54 separate hurricanes in every state, territory, and the District of Columbia. Some are Category 5s, some are Category 3s, some are Categories 1. So we have our work cut out for us, America, and I think we can look at what's coming. I would say that New York City has a Category 5.
Well, that's what I think they're preparing for. I think Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo, and I would say for the people, and look, it's hashtag War Room Pandemic. Give us your best shot. Tell us what you think. We want your observations. We want your comments. We're big boys. Jason and I have been through a couple of three, not everybody loving us. But look, he's not a fascist. What these people are doing is they're preparing. They're putting the best foot forward. They're under a lot of pressure. They anticipate, you can clearly tell by what they're doing at Cat 5. Now, let's hope and pray that it's something else. But I think you got to prepare for a Cat 5 and hope something else happens, because you don't want to be caught short on this. You don't want to be, the guy the other day said it's like Bill Ackman said, it's like a tsunami on the beach. They're just on the beach playing and not seeing the tide go out in the storm of the tsunami coming. So
Well, Steve, you and I were both Navy guys in the Cold War. We never heard a shot fired, but you're always prepared, even like you fight.
Exactly.
And if you're a medical professional in New York City, this is going to be your chance to hit the beach, and we are all praying for you and pulling for you.
And support. We're going to work tonight to get some of these PPEs to the governor and to any access to people we know that are pulling it. Schumer, I want to go quickly to we've got Schumer also about the plant and equipment. You've got something else, Jason? We got something else in the hopper?
Yeah, an NBC employee, Larry Edgeworth, who's an audio technician, worked with a number of the folks, whether it be Savannah Guthrie, Kelly O'Donnell.
Down at 30 Rock, right?
Down at 30 Rock has died because of coronavirus. Andy Lack put out a statement today from NBC, said that Larry had suffered from other health issues that led him to succumb to the illness. But this is definitely hitting close to home. I mean, and we're unfortunately not that far away from a lot of us knowing someone who not only contracted coronavirus, but who might ultimately die because of it.
Now, Navarro, this guy's worked on the Defense Production Act, which is from the Korean War, that can actually force companies to start making other stuff. Now, Senator Schumer had a call with the president today, reported on Politico, and they said the president called some of the room and says, hey, what Schumer says, I want to be done right away, right?
Essentially, Schumer was saying, look, we want ventilators, we want everything we can. What are you going to do with the National Defense Act? And he said, look, we're on it. He yelled over to an aide. He said, help Schumer with anything he needs. And I think everyone has to understand, he just passed this yesterday. So they've been in discussions, from everything we understand, with various manufacturers for weeks and weeks. This isn't something that they just pulled out of a hat 2 days ago. This takes a lot of preparation, and it takes a lot of time for people to change their lines. But they're doing it right now.
Trump time is that it should have been done yesterday, so people got to be on this. Understand that everybody's working 24/7. We got that. Okay, War Room Pandemic, the New York City Special Report on 77 WABC. Very honored to be a part of this, the WABC family. Go to hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want your comments. We want your observations. But what we really want is send us snippets of news from around there. You're all citizen journalists now. We're gonna crowdsource all the news we have here. we want to jump in, Jack.
And
Yes, sir?
particularly healthcare professionals, as you're seeing this come into your hospitals, we would love to hear what you're seeing, and we'd love to be able to tell your stories because you guys are going to be real heroes, and we want all of America to know the great work you're doing.
And this is what we did in Wuhan. People would send us stuff from Wuhan.
Sure.
People would send us stuff from Hubei, from Italy. We were the first people on this story from either China and Italy, and now in New York City. Okay, want you to have a weekend to help put your shoulder to the wheel. We'll return on Monday at 5 o'clock. War Room Pandemic, New York City Special Report 77 WABC.